Hey guys, what's good? Hope everybody's doing well. And I just wanted to make a video that I've been wanting to make for a long time. I recently got this watch in and I'm just really excited about it. I've never had a Damasko. You can see the D there. Such a simple dial, super legible, just really interesting. You can see that this watch is made in Germany, and I'm just like super excited. I love German watches. I love German watchmaking. I love that aesthetic. And this is all about that, German tool watch aesthetic. So this is a Damasko, a small brand out of Germany that is very well respected amongst, people that know a lot about watches. It offers you tremendous value. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about it. Let's see now. This is the Damasko DS30, and this model is called the Blue because you can see it has a really cool blue seconds hand, beautiful sweep to that Swiss automatic ETA movement, and you can see it has a blue date there, really nice. The watch is 39 millimeters in diameter, so kind of like a perfect size. You can see it has a lovely matte black dial and just ultra legible. The white markers, the white hands on that black dial make legibility super easy. It's got this crosshair design on the dial, and it's kind of like a Damasko signature, I'd say. A lot of their watches have that. And again, it just improves legibility, gives it a little bit of, a little bit of style to it. This one is, like I said, the blue model. I really like that blue second hand. Really cool. It just gives the dial a little bit of interest, especially with the blue date right there. The standard version of this watch has a white date and a white second hand. Look at how those hands reach the edge of the dial. Look at that. Watch that seconds hand sweep. It just gets right to the edge of the dial, doesn't it? And look at the minutes hand. Same thing. It just reaches right to the edge of the dial. And so attention to detail, legibility is high on this watch's attributes. 39 millimeters makes it easy to wear. Drilled lugs, awesome. It's got a solid case back, which I think is super appropriate for a watch like this. And it has 200 meters water resistance. So it kind of checks all the boxes for what I look for in a, everyday beater, everyday go anywhere, do anything kind of watch. The finish on the steel is interesting. It almost looks like titanium, doesn't it? But it's stainless steel. And this is actually similar. Well, this is Damasko's submarine steel. So it's treated. It's a little more anti-magnetic and it's highly scratch resistant. You can see the Damasko D right there on the crown. A really nice screw down crown. So it's a really good, easy watch to wear. But this watch reminds me, and it should remind you, of another watch that I have in my collection that I like and love very much, actually. And that is this one. That's the Sinn 556A in the RS, red seconds configuration. And, this watch is hard to beat. I mean, it really is. This is about the same size, stainless steel, 200 meters water resistance. And we're going to compare these two watches, the Damasko DS30 and the Sinn 556 ARS, the Ender of Dreams, head to head to see which watch may be the better option for you. Spoiler alert, you can have both of them. And like I said, I've got both of them. They're both keepers, and I think they're both really cool. And even though they look similar, they have similar attributes, I think what you'll see and what you'll find, hopefully, as you watch this video is that they each do certain things better than the other. And because of that, if you can only pick one, hopefully this video gives you some insight into which the right one is. All right, be right back. Okay, and we're back, and let's kind of talk about these watches head to head. So let's see, on my wrist, I have the Sinn 556A RS. Kind of cool how I have the red second hands on the Sinn and the blue second hand on the Damasko, I think. Just a slight difference, but certainly one I think that's kind of interesting. And as you can see, I've synchronized best I can the times on these two watches. I think they both offer a lot of value. You know, the Damasko DS30 has been discontinued. This was a sub $1,000 watch from a with a Swiss movement from a German manufacturer that offered submarine steel and just, you know, in a lot of different dial configurations. You know, they had a green seconds hand, they had a yellow version. They also had different versions with different placements of the date and also some different dial colors. There's a really cool blue dial that looks really awesome. So, but this is a sub $1,000 watch from a German brand with a Swiss automatic movement. It's since been discontinued actually and replaced with a watch that is, I think, like $1,600 or $1,700 US that happens to feature an in-house movement. So they've done away with their kind of generic Swiss-made automatic, you know, Salida or ETA movement, and they've gone in-house with their movement and charged a massive premium for it. At under $1,000, I think this watch is super competitive. At $1,700, $1,800, $1,500, not so much. Because at those prices, you're playing in this league with the Sinn 556, the Sinn 856, both excellent watches. But the Damasko does have some tricks that the Sinn does not have. You know, both are about the same size, so they both wear very well. You know, the Sinn just has a typical kind of a like a stainless steel case. It doesn't have the submarine steel. And you can hopefully see and appreciate the difference in the finishes like that. Both watches are thin. The Sinn is a little bit thicker because of the display case back. That's the only reason. If it had a solid stainless steel case back, it would be just as thin as the Damasko. If it, you know, the Sinn has a display case back. I don't know how much that matters to you. It doesn't matter to me a lot on these kinds of watches. Even the manufacturer movement in the Damasko is nothing special. It's nothing important and nothing that I would, you know, that I'm going to get a loop and look at. It's a workhorse movement for a workhorse watch, but I guess it's nice that the Sinn has a see-through case back. I don't give it any marks for that, but that is a difference. If that's important to you, that's certainly a distinguishing feature of the 556, just in the same way that this submarine steel may be a distinguishing feature for the Damasko. You know, in order to get the same kind of steel technology on the Sinn, you got to upgrade to the 856, and that's significantly more expensive. So now you're talking about, you know, $1,700, $1,800, $1,900 for an 856. That has a GMT complication. I think there's a version that's simpler that doesn't have one. But again, so better steel on the Damasko, see-through case back on the Sinn. Size is the same, so I'm still in that 38, 39 millimeter range on both watches. Water resistance the same. I'm still 200 meters on both watches. I think legibility is just, you know, 100 on both of these watches. Just super legible, super thought out. You know, crown action, the same on them, and wearability on both of them is just really excellent. I'm going to throw the, let's see how this Damasko feels on my wrist. It just feels really good. It looks proper, you know what I mean? I've got both of them on similar watch straps. These are from, weirdly, a German company named Rios 1931, and so a good inexpensive watch strap if you're looking for it. But you can just kind of see how the Damasko wears on my wrist. My wrist is 6 1/4, 16 centimeters in circumference, and it just wears easy. You know what I mean? It's simple to wear. Both watches have 20 millimeter lug width, so straps are very easy for both, but I'm going to give straps and interchangeability of straps. I'm going to give that nod to the Sinn. How come? They're both 39 millimeter watches with 20 millimeter lug widths. How come the Sinn is better? The positioning of the spring bars in the Damasko make, by and large, curved spring bars a necessity. So inside the strap, I've got the OEM Damasko curved spring bars in it just so it can fit, because it's a really tight fit right there. It doesn't make a huge difference if you're wearing a NATO strap as long as you're wearing a thin one to kind of get in there. The Sinn straps are not that big an issue for it. So you can kind of stick even thick straps in there and they won't rub and get scraped up. Both watches are excellent. Both watches exhibit a classic German aesthetic. These are no-nonsense tool watches, and both would be welcome, I think, in any collection. It's hard to pick one over the other. I think it's a lot easier to pick them now if you look at the watches in these companies' current lineups. The Sinn 556A continues to be in production from Sinn, and the watch remains, $1,200, $1,300 in price. That's on a bracelet, actually. It can be had cheaper on a strap. The secondhand market price for these Sinns, 556 is kind of trades at that retail price. It's such a classic, good watch that you're going to be paying around, on strap, $1,100, maybe $1,000 for it. The days when you can get these for $700, $800, them days are long gone. The DS30 on the secondhand market is creeping up, honestly. I got this around $850, and I thought that was a really good price considering it was a full set. But the prices on these are creeping up, and believe me, they will continue to creep up. The value proposition of a $1,600, $1,700 Damasko with an in-house movement is tenuous at best, I would say. And I would strongly encourage you, if you like the Damasko, try to find a used, in good condition DS30 now. You're going to spend a lot less money and have the exact same watch, except for a small, inconsequential changes to the movement, which will ultimately make it harder to service and probably less reliable. Anyway, that's just my that's my editorial on in-house, especially in a watch like this, where I think the goal is to have it be reliable and serviceable in as many outlets as possible. I mean, in-house doesn't to me, it's not an advantage. In fact, it's a disadvantage to the current version. My point being is, I think the old version, the DS30, is a much, much better buy than the DK30. And I think the DS30 is competitive with the 556. I think the newer DK30 just isn't. I would rather have the Sinn. The build quality on both is excellent, of course. I give the nod on the dial to the Sinn. I think it's to me, seeing them in hand, it's pretty convincing. A big reason for that is that the black is much darker on the Sinn. The black on the Damasko is kind of, it's almost like a dark gray. It's kind of cloudy, whereas the Sinn has a much purer black and therefore is aesthetically more pleasing and, perhaps a little bit more legible. Style-wise, I think, I think it depends on what you're into. I think both are super cool. If I saw either of these on somebody's wrist, I'm going to give them a, hey, nice watch, man, in passing. And that's about it. I mean, these watches are super cool. They kind of display, I think, for the wearer, a knowledge of watches beyond just, whatever the standard stuff is out there, Rolex, Omega, any of the Swift brands, Longines or Tissot. I think it's a German watch exhibits, hey, I know what I'm looking at. I know what I'm buying. Value matters to me, features matters to me, and these are watches that can be used and abused and will still look great. So I hope this gives you some insight into two watches that honestly I love. I mean, I think they're both great. I think they'd both be welcome in any collection. They're similar, no doubt they're similar, but at least my two, I think they are different enough to warrant, it's just some interest. The blue versus the red. So that's kind of a cool difference. Incidentally, both of these watches have dates. The Sinn does it by putting it right at 4:30. You can see it right there, tiny. The Damasko does it by doing it, at the more traditional spot. I will say the date. Not very easy to read on the Damasko because it's blue on black, but cool still. I mean, not a deal breaker in any sense of the word. So anyway, I hope you like this quick look at two watches that are similar but kind of different. two watches that offer just tremendous value. And even though they're entry-level watches for their respective brands, if I had to tell somebody one watch to get, I would say get an entry-level Sinn or get a Damasko DS30. I think you get 85% of what both of these brands have to offer at the lowest possible price point in just classic style. You know, I mean, just a classic watch. Looks good on a man or a woman. Looks good on a big wrist or a small wrist. Just looks cool. Anyway, I hope you like this quick video. I'm sorry that it took so long to make it. I've just been on the lookout for a DS30 for a long time. I finally was able to trade for one, and I just wanted to compare it to, you know, one of my favorite watches, the 556. I'm not going to pick a winner here. For me, they're both winners. I think if you had, you know, $1,200 to spend on a really nice watch, I think I would recommend the Sinn to somebody. I think if you had $800, $900, $1,000 to spend, I think I'd say, hey, listen, either save up for the Sinn, but if you want something that's really just as good, get a pre-owned DS30. I think that would be my recommendation for people. All right, guys, sorry to take so long. I hope you enjoyed this quick look at two watches I absolutely love and look forward to making more content for y'all soon. Take care. God bless. Bye.